Hi everyone, it's Coach Fred here, and today we're going to be translating trig graphs. This first video, we're going to be looking at graphs going up and down. So we're shifting the graph up, shifting the graph down. In the video right after this, we're going to be moving them left and right. Okay, so up and down, we're going to call a vertical change. Left and right, we're going to call a phase shift or a horizontal change. Phase shift. Okay, so here we're looking at the trig graphs that we're going to be translating. And they'll be in the form y equals a sine b parentheses x minus c plus d. So remember, we talked about a and that the absolute value of a told me the amplitude. So the amplitude is half the distance between the max and the min. B told me the frequency, how many times a full cycle of the graph occurs in its period, which is 2 pi. So we learned how to find a new period if the b is happening more frequently. The graph is happening more frequently. Now we're going to look at D. Okay, so we're going to do D first. D is going to shift the graph up and down. All right, so let's look at an example. Here we've got y equals 2 sine 2x plus 1. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is identify our new period. Okay, our new period would be 2 pi divided by the frequency, because that's how many times the graph will occur in 2 pi. It'll happen 2 times, so the new period will be pi. Now remember, after that we always find our quarter period or unit, or our quarter period. Okay, so our quarter period would be pi over 4. That helps me when I'm tracking or I'm getting my values along the x-axis. My amplitude is 2, remember our a term, and our vertical shift is going up 1. Well, if the graph is getting shifted up 1, that means our midline is moving up 1. I'm going to write it there for you. All right, so that's where I always start. I always start with my vertical shift. I want to move my midline. So my midline, if it's normally at y equals 0, is now going to be up at 1. So I'm going to put a dotted line for my midline. Okay. Then I'm going to go from there, I'm going to use my amplitude. So I'm going to go up 2, so I would be at 3, and I'm going to go down 2, so I would be at -1, okay? All right, so then I'm going to mark my labels on the x-axis. So remember, 4 equally spaced lines. However, I like to actually get 2 periods of the graph. So if I put pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then 4 pi over 4, which is pi. That's actually 1 period of the graph. There's those 4 equally spaced. So I'd like to go in this direction. We're going to extend it a little bit. We're going to go 2 periods in the positive direction. So the next one would be 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4 would be 3 pi over 2. Then 7 pi over 4. And 8 pi over 4 would be 2 pi. I do want to also go in the negative direction, so I'm just going to go 1. So negative pi over 4, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 4, and pi, negative pi. Okay, so now we're looking at the sine graph, so we're ready to graph, okay? So we're looking at the sine graph. Sine graph starts at the midline, right? Starts at the midline. So I'm going to start at the midline at 0. And then I'm going to go up to my amplitude. So I go up from there at my first tick mark. So at pi over 4. Then back to the midline at pi over 2. And then down to -1 at 3 pi over 4. And then at pi, I'm back to the midline. So you can see that's going to be 1 cycle of the graph in pi, okay? All right, but we said the frequency was 2, so it should happen twice in 2 pi. So let's see if it does. So from there, I'm going to go back up, back down to the midline, back down to -1, and then back up to the midline. On the left side of the graph, I'm going to go down to -1, back up to the midline, up to 3, and then back to the midline. So let's see if I can get a nice sine graph here. Nice wave. Oops. Okay, and again, the reason we call them periodic functions is because they repeat over a period of time. And in this case, the period that they're repeating is every pi, okay? All right, let's try one more. Okay, so this one's with cosine. So again, we get our period. So 2 pi over 2. So my period here would be pi, and my quarter period, my helper, is pi over 4. My amplitude in this case is 3, and my vertical shift is 2. Okay, so same process. We put in our midline. So my midline at y equals 0 is now moving up to 2. And I put a dotted line for my midline because it's kind of a hidden line, right? I'm using it as a helper line. Okay, I mark my 4 equally spaced parts. So actually, I'm just going to do 1 on the right and 1 on the left here. I'll specify. So pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and 4 pi over 4, which is pi. All right, and then the same in the negative direction. These are all negative. Okay, remember, oops, forgot with my midline, I want to do my vertical shift. So I'm going up 2. So from my midline, I'm going to go up 2. So I would be at, go up to my amplitude. So I'm going to go up 3 from my midline. So that would put me at 5. And then 1, 2, 3 down would put me at -1, right? Remember, cosine starts high. So cosine, I'm going to start up here at 5. Then down to pi over 4 at the midline, down to -1, back up to the midline, and up at pi. And then on the other side, I'm going to go back down to the midline, down to -1, up to the midline, and up at pi. And so you can see, sorry about that. And there's my cosine graph. All right, so now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to press pause. I'd like you to try this next one and then come back and look at your answer. All right, so my period was 2 pi. My quarter period was pi over 2. My amplitude was 3, and then this was being shifted up 2. So my midline was moving up to y equals 2. From there, I was going up 3, so 1, 2, 3 to 5, and down 3 to -1. And then I also had to add the reflection from that negative in front of the function. So instead, sine does start at the midline, but instead of going up now, it would be going down. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. You're going to be now watching the video on moving things left, right.